I remember the day they laughed at her in the adoption office. That laughter wasn't just loud, it was sharp, brittle, slicing through my chest like glass. I felt it echoing in my bones, a cruel sound that marked the moment everything changed. The air smelled of polished wood and sterile papers, a scent so ordinary, yet it carried the weight of judgment. Her hands trembled as they clutched the application, fingers shaking like fragile leaves in a storm. They told her she wasn't fit. Their smiles were sharp, dripping with patronizing judgment, like they were savoring her failure. I could see it in her eyes, the shame, the quiet storm of endurance built up over years, now threatening to spill over. The receptionist's casual sneer lingered in the air, heavy, suffocating, a mockery she couldn't shake. I could hear every whispered doubt she had ever swallowed, every time someone told her she wasn't enough. The fluorescent lights above were harsh, cold, spotlighting her humiliation for anyone to witness. My chest tightened as I watched her swallow back tears, holding herself together while they casually scribbled "denied" across her form. People in the waiting room glanced over. Some offered sympathy, fleeting and timid. Most were indifferent, their stares magnifying her isolation, emphasizing the loneliness of being dismissed. I noticed her fingers gripping the edge of the desk, knuckles white, a quiet determination simmering beneath the embarrassment. Then came the final words from the receptionist. Maybe next time. They weren't just words, they were dripping with mockery, a spark thrown onto the dry kindling of years of hidden pain. That moment, that single careless phrase set a fire inside her that would consume everything in its path. It was the trigger, the humiliation, the beginning of a storm no one would see coming. But I did. I remember how she had always wanted to nurture, even as a child, gathering stray animals from the street and comforting neighborhood kids who had nobody else. Her heart was open, generous, yet the world seemed determined to shut her down. Her own parents dismissed her dreams, labeling her too soft and impractical, as if empathy were a weakness. I recall nights when she cried alone in her tiny apartment, the faint hum of the city outside barely reaching her. The walls were lined with books on child psychology and orphan care, each one a testament to her quiet ambition, her relentless desire to protect and nurture those who had been abandoned. Her first heartbreak wasn't romantic. It was the children she longed to help being told she wasn't good enough, being turned away by a system that failed to see her worth. I remember the whispers at family gatherings. She'll never make it. Why bother? They wrapped around her like invisible chains, each word a subtle cut she had learned to endure, yet she never gave up. She once adopted a dog that nobody else wanted, nursing it back to health with unwavering devotion, her care transforming fear and pain into trust. I remember her journal, pages filled with dreams and plans to open an orphanage someday, each line a promise to children she would one day protect. I recall the bitter sting of losing her job at a nonprofit because jealous coworkers had worked in secret to sabotage her reputation. Her resilience had always been quiet, almost invisible to the world, but now, after that humiliating rejection in the adoption office, it ignited. I could feel her anger building, not reckless but precise like a storm forming behind calm, determined eyes. Memories of every childhood injustice she had endured silently now fueled a burning, focused sense of purpose, ready to explode into action. I watched her pore over files and brochures, researching every orphanage in the city with meticulous attention, noting inefficiencies, gaps in care, and opportunities no one else seemed to notice. Each note she scribbled, each observation she made, was a calculated step towards something bigger. She began attending board meetings, uninvited at first, slipping into the background with a notebook in hand, observing, taking notes, learning the unspoken rules, the hidden hierarchies, the power everyone assumed was untouchable. I could see the subtle shift in her demeanor. Calm, calculating, unshakable, a transformation born from years of quiet endurance finally finding its outlet. She confronted former employees who had doubted her, her words measured, each conversation a test of patience and strategy. I felt the tension rise when she started meeting donors under the guise of volunteer work, her charm understated but effective, building quiet influence where none expected it. Her eyes, once filled with hurt and humiliation, now glimmered with sharp strategic focus, scanning, calculating, plotting. I noticed her drafting legal documents late at night, every sentence a deliberate step toward reclaiming her dignity, every clause a small victory in a war no one knew she was waging. Her interactions with the orphanage director became increasingly pointed, exposing mismanagement with precision, subtle enough to avoid backlash, yet powerful enough to unsettle authority. I felt a thrill watching her intelligence transform what had been humiliation into leverage, turning weakness into power. She refused shortcuts, insisting on legitimacy and moral victory, letting patience and skill do the work that anger alone never could. I could almost taste the tension in the air as she began to rally the staff behind her vision, inspiring loyalty, not with threats, but with clarity and purpose. Her relentless attention to detail, once a quiet quirk, had become her sharpest weapon, one that would carve her path to justice. I remember the phone call that changed everything. A former supporter of the orphanage, disgusted by the corruption he had witnessed, reached out with insider information and a promise of help. The moment she heard his voice, I felt her pulse quicken, a spark of opportunity igniting in perfect timing. We sat together, poring over contracts late into the night, uncovering hidden clauses and loopholes that could legally give her the control she had long been denied. Each discovery was a quiet revelation, a key unlocking the power that had been just out of reach. The day she confronted the board, armed with evidence of mismanagement and negligence, the air itself seemed to shift. The director's confident smirk faltered as her calm authority filled the room, every word measured, every glance deliberate. Staff exchanged nervous glances, sensing the undeniable shift in power, a tide turning beneath their feet. Her voice, steady but charged, demanded accountability and transparency, cutting through years of arrogance and complacency. I could feel the tension thicken, every eye fixed on her as she laid out her vision for the orphanage, clear, uncompromising, and morally unassailable. She asserted control without raising her voice, precision replacing rage, strategy replacing frustration. That moment crystallized her transformation from victim to orchestrator, a woman poised for decisive action, every movement deliberate, every word a statement of command. I felt the surge of justice begin to tilt in her favor, a force almost physical, bending the atmosphere around her as if gravity itself had shifted to answer her resolve. I remember the day she officially took over. The papers were signed, every signature in place, marking a victory that was both legal and deeply symbolic. The press had gathered, cameras flashing, capturing the calm dignity of a woman who had once been humiliated and dismissed. I saw the former director's facade crack, the staff stepping forward to publicly support her leadership, their loyalty shifting the room like a tide. She addressed the children first, her warmth filling the space, a living contrast to the tension that had gripped the room for so long. I felt a quiet satisfaction as her adversaries struggled to maintain composure under her unwavering gaze, powerless against her measured authority. She implemented sweeping reforms, every new policy a testament to her intelligence, foresight, and empathy, reshaping the orphanage into a place of care and dignity. I could see the transformation unfold before my eyes, the orphanage thriving under her guidance, laughter and energy replacing the neglect that had once ruled these halls. I remember the confrontation with a trustee who had mocked her adoption dream, her voice steady and sharp, exposing hypocrisy and arrogance for all to witness. The emotional climax arrived as she celebrated with the children, a quiet, victorious smile lighting her face, a reward more powerful than any revenge could be. I felt it then. Her revenge was not cruelty, but poetic justice. competence, care, and moral superiority prevailing over those who had underestimated her. Every step she had taken, from humiliation to triumph, unfolded like a meticulously choreographed symphony of vindication, each moment building toward the inevitable justice she had long been denied. I watched her sit in her new office, sunlight spilling over carefully drawn plans for future expansions, each line a promise of growth and care. The orphanage ran smoothly now, a living testament to her vision and relentless perseverance. I saw the respect in the eyes of staff and volunteers, no longer skeptics, but believers in her leadership, in her ability to transform not just the institution, but the lives within it. She took time to mentor other aspiring caretakers, passing on lessons of resilience, patience, and quiet strength. There was a quiet satisfaction in her eyes, a serenity born from justice achieved and obstacles overcome. The children thrived, their laughter echoing through the halls, a living, breathing reminder of everything she had fought for. I felt the lingering echo of her adversaries' disbelief, now powerless, irrelevant, their mockery replaced by admiration and acceptance. She quietly celebrated milestones with her chosen family of children and devoted staff, small victories that carried immense meaning. I sensed her personal healing, old wounds now transformed into strength, scars turned into badges of honor, and I observed her planning the next chapter with deliberate care, always forward-looking, always strategic, never vengeful beyond necessity, her heart and mind aligned in purpose and calm authority. I faced the camera from the orphanage courtyard, children running around, their laughter filling the frame, bright and uncontainable. I recount the journey, the sting of rejection that once cut so deeply, and the triumph born from patience, strategy, and unwavering focus. I reflect on how the smallest acts of injustice, when met with quiet determination, can ignite monumental change, reshaping lives and institutions alike. The lesson crystallizes clearly. Dignity, perseverance, and intelligence can turn humiliation into power, transforming weakness into strength. I highlight the children's joy, their smiles and laughter, the ultimate proof that justice has been served, not with vengeance, but with care, vision, and moral authority. I narrate her transformation, a woman once dismissed and belittled, now an unstoppable force of compassion, leadership, and respect. I emphasize that revenge isn't about cruelty, it's about reclaiming what is rightfully yours with integrity, demonstrating that strength is silent but absolute. I invite viewers to consider their own struggles. What injustice in your life could you transform into opportunity, into empowerment? I close with a reflective pause, the camera lingering on smiling faces, the sun setting behind the orphanage, bathing everything in golden light. And I leave the final thought echoing clearly. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest gift.